Glass allows us to see in and out and invites us to imagine. Imagine Museum, Contemporary Glass Art.
By suspending figures in moments of tension, recalling myths and legends through animal forms, I hope to convey a place that different species have occupied over time. From the long storied significance of the horse in our civilization and medieval tapestries depicting the lure of the unicorn to the tradition of the Japanese Itsuki and the disappearance of the red gazelle, animals have been associated with mythology, magic, and divinity. I'm pleased to welcome Shelley Allen, artist, and also the person who wrote that quote. Hey, hello, Shelley. It's great to see you.
Hi,
You're one of the fan favorites in the Imagine Museum collection. They love the animals that we have, specifically the horses of yours in our collection. And so it's great to see you. And how's everything in the Northwest and Skagit Valley?
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for having me and also for that wonderful collection in your museum. Everything today is just beautiful. We're having one of the most perfect Pacific Northwest days. So I'm super grateful to see some sunshine.
When I lived there, I always thought those days it was just majestic. There's not another word to describe it other than just majesty when you see those mountains come out.
Yeah.
So you have sent us a series of photos of your work, and since this Zoom is only an hour, I'm just saying let's get on with it. So as we begin, first, give us a little background about you and what brought you to the arts and to the glass material.
Well, I'll start going through the slides because I have I will start talking about it and
Wonderful.
Visually represent it. Yeah, so I've been working with glass for about 30 years now, and I started in the early 90s. And I'm going to go right back to, this is where I was born, in Flin Flon, Manitoba, which is up in the Canadian tundra. And every night, this is what we would experience. The sky was super energetic. We had very little light in the winter. So I was surrounded by these incredible northern lights, which I really feel really added to my artwork later on when I reflect back on this. You could go to the next slide. I see how that it really still pertains to what I work on today. This is what it looked like, where this was my playground. And I really believe this added to creating a very fertile imagination because there really wasn't anything there but rocks.
Oh my God.
We had small lakes. So I was often outside in nature, even though it was less hospitable than the Pacific Northwest. This is what actually, this painting by Marc Chagall is what led me to want to become an artist. I was very, very young when I saw this painting. I was probably maybe 4 years old. My parents had a set of encyclopedias and I looked up P and I came across this. And I still remember the feeling of looking at it and having this rush of emotion from the movement and just that feeling of levity that I thought to myself that I don't know what this is, but I knew I wanted to do it. Like I just knew I wanted to be able to create something like that. Wow. So I painted from a really young age. And I always liked to paint a lot larger than myself. I found that when I surrounded myself completely with the imagery, I became part of the painting. And it became that much more of a experience for myself, and then hopefully also for the viewer. These are oil on wood, and the fence is actually rusted steel that I had riveted to the surface. So I was bringing a lot of texture into my paintings. This is a example of a painting that an associate of mine saw, and she said, you know, you should be blowing glass, after she saw this painting. And it was something about the movement and the levels of the transparency, the layering. And I just looked at her and I just said, I'm blowing glass. What do you mean? I'm a painter. But she gave me a Pilchuck catalog, and I found glass. This is just an example of, I also did installation work. This is in the Vancouver UBC endowment lands in the old growth forest, and I'm taking a relief of the old growth forest on a sheet of aluminum, and I later reconstructed the trees in a gallery. So that was what I was doing as well as painting. So I realized that I should, at that point, be working more sculpturally, because I was doing a bit of both. You could go ahead to, yeah. And then I went to Pilchuck. So this is probably the early 90s, learning how to manipulate the bubble somehow. It was a really long journey getting from, you know, just learning the hand skills to be able to sculpt with it. But it was a long journey now that I look back on it. But the actual time spent was it's just gone by so quickly, and it's been such an exciting material to work with.
Talk a little bit, because I see we're pausing on Rick here, which is great, but talk a little bit about working two-dimensionally, painting with such form two-dimensionally, and then learning about the glass. So you took a class at Pilchuck, but a class would not have put you in the arena you are today. So when you say it was difficult, describe that area just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jane. So when I went to Pilchuck and took a mixed media class with Susan Stensmullen, and so we touched on casting, blowing, fusing. So it was just a little bit of dabbling, but it was the hot shop that the second I walked in there, I just went, oh, I have to do this. I was just so enamored with it. I also was there with my timing. I met Rick, I met William Morris, I met Dante, I met Karen Willenbrink, and we all became really instant friends. And that truly was what led me to be able to continue doing it. I went back to Vancouver where I was living. I drove to Seattle to take lessons. And then I drove back to Vancouver at night. So I was traveling for, 4 hours every day after work, taking a nighttime class in Seattle. Wow. And then Karen Willenbrink said, oh, why don't you, on your way back, come and stay at Pilchuck, and then you can work with me in the morning. So I started doing that. And that was really, that was instrumental, because I was able to continue, I was learning fundamentals, but then I was working in a sculptural way with the Morris team. So yeah, it was very, wow. It was very, I was so driven, it didn't matter how much time I was in the car, as long as I got to the destination where I could work with glass. And
it seems like it was almost the way it was supposed to happen then.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is very true. It's, I really felt like when I was painting, I was always a little unsatisfied. So I started doing the kind of hammering metal and just trying to be more physical with it. But as soon as I found glass, I didn't need to do anything else. Like that was it. It was just all encompassing. And I knew that it was almost, I felt like I had just in a sense, found my home, which I know that sounds strange, but it just felt like it was really innately there.
And here's some more magical shots of the Northwest. And I just want to say that Trish Duggan is on. So welcome. Good morning, Trish. Thanks for coming in on the Zoom.
I've actually been here since the absolute very beginning, but I've been working with Natalia to get my picture on. My picture hasn't been on. But...
Well, hi, Trish. Nice to see you.
Shelley, I love your work. I'm so happy you're on today. Honestly, you're just so special. And I'm so happy that you did find your home with glass. It's remarkable.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been such an incredible medium to work with. I never imagined that the actual, like the community and the wonderful people that I would connect with, that would also be part of it. And that's just adds to the whole, just this incredible magic that glass has, you know, just all the people that are drawn to it are just so wonderful. And yeah, I every day I just count, you know, I never take a day for granted. I'm super grateful for finding this life, or the life finding me, maybe. You know?
Yes, yes. I
think
think it,
paintings from your earlier lifetime, your paintings are really spectacular too. So
Thank you.
An honor to have you on today. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for asking me. Yeah.
so continue with your slides, and we were seeing some beautiful images of the Northwest. So this is outside your door.
Yeah. This is about 10 minutes away. So I often, I go out to be inspired to go back into the studio, and I often just walk or hike and just feel like just the energy of the landscape. And that just fills me, because glass blowing is so, I mean, it's all about motion and movement and that kind of capturing that moment. And I really feel that just being outside, it's kind of it emulates that same energy that nature has. So
Yes.
I take images and emotions that I see on my walks and hikes, and then I come back to the studio and I create them. This piece is called Face of Flowers. And I did see this deer lying in our, you know, up to her neck in our back field, and these daisies were popping up, and it was just such a beautiful image. So yeah, so I tried to capture, and it's pretty close to life size too. And another thing that drew me with the glass world was, you know, we were talking about the people it draws. Well, the teams that you work with, they're just, it's such an important part. I couldn't make my work without them. And it's just a level of camaraderie, and everybody is they're working together as if it's just all of these people creating the one piece. Like everyone puts their full investment when they come to work with you. And I think that's really unique to glass as well. They may be hired employees, but they're really not. They're there 100%. They're as invested in the piece as I can be. So it's a truly spirited way of working. This is just a short video of working. Oh, it's gone. Just what? Yeah, if you just click. Yeah, there we go. I just wanted to show my working with my people.
Great.
Yeah, so I had four regular assistants working on my team, and that was all of them there. And you can just see from that how dependent we all are on each other in order to finish the piece.
So I have a question. I've seen you do your demos a couple of times, and I'm always amazed by how organized you are. When you are putting together these pieces, they have mass and they have so many components, but it seems it is like a dance. Okay, when you have the form, you have this, and then you add this and the leg, and it is. So I'm just wondering. And then last January when you were at Ringling, and I know that was pulled together in a rather quick time. How do you pull that team together, and how long does it take you to prepare before you get in front of the furnace?
Yeah, that's a really, as you mentioned, you just have a split second in order to make decisions. And when you work with glass, if you make a wrong decision, the glass remembers it, and it often will crack later on down the line, or something, the form won't be the way you intended. So I prepare mentally. As soon as I get the idea, I start preparing. Visualization is really, really a big part of my process. I imagine making the piece. I imagine how it's going to move. I imagine, I work through the whole steps in my head. And then before I go into the studio, I do some really loose drawing in order to just waken up my hand brain relationship. And that really helps too. If I pre-make parts, I lay them out and I'll draw around the parts also, so that way I kind of have an idea of proportions.
Yeah, I think you're incredibly organized in such a fast-paced, creative, process. And I've never seen anything come out like wrong. I haven't seen you break anything, which is quite incredible. And so I was just wondering how that all came together, and how much prep time you had to put in there. Okay, let's keep going with those slides.
Yeah, so this is some of the prep work here. A lot of the work that I do in order to get the detail, I work from a piece of glass that's partially colored and partially sculpted out. And I call them a grawl. So I'll make the parts and I make this grawl blank, and then I go into the cold shop and I reverse engrave, like reverse paint, taking away the layers of color in order to draw more detail. So like the eyes on these, on the red fox there, that's the very interior color. So they're a transparent red showing through. So it's yeah, and that's that piece there finished. So it's a number of days and actually weeks, depending on how detailed the carving is. But I feel like working like this is a way of putting my painting back into the glass too. And it enables me to just create work that's, uniquely what I would like to express about the particular creature. I can get more emotion. This was a piece that I did on predators. We had mountain lions in our back property and a lot of deer. And this particular mountain lion, I had seen it one afternoon when I was blowing glass, and it left my property, fortunately, after it saw me, and I ran into the house. It was kind of a frightening moment, but then it took down a deer in our neighbor's yard just that afternoon, later that afternoon. So I felt I was very lucky. So I made a piece about it. And this is one of the red gazelle pieces. I like to, as well as work directly from what I see, I also like to kind of let my mind wander back through history and imagine the species that were before, and imagine a moment in their life. Once again, this is working from the bear we have on our property, and an example of the reverse engraving. And this has the addition of beadwork that I really enjoy doing also. It gives me time to work in my studio alone and very quietly and very repetitively. So I have a lot of thinking time. It really contrasts well with the intensity of working in the hot shop with a large team.
You know, I had not seen your paintings before, and it just makes me appreciate your sculpture so much more, knowing how you've incorporated that into these three-dimensional pieces, from the 2D horses now to these three-dimensional objects. Really, really quite beautiful. And your color palette too is also something that I know people will remark on when they come through and see your pieces in the museum here. So well done, Shelley. Well done.
Yeah, it's been a very challenging journey, but I really, yeah, I feel like there's still so much more. This is the Lady in the Tapestry series that you had mentioned in my introduction. I've been completely fascinated by the imagery here too, because it's just a gathering, like a menagerie of the time period, which was the 1500s. And they were created by a Flemish fellow for a woman that he had fallen in love with. And I became very obsessed with these tapestries and how I could get lost in all the intricacy of it. So I created a glass tapestry in the Museum of Northwest Art a few years ago, where I had the unicorns coming out of the wall. And then the whole room was filled with flora and fauna made out of blown glass.
That had to be something to see. So the whole environment, environment was all of this. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a long, narrow room. So they were, painting the walls really vibrantly it really added to the piece. But it's also another piece I would like to reventure and add on to. I still have a few of the elements, and I think it would be really nice to continue with this idea sometime in the future.
Yeah,
and the unicorn, the horns are about 5 feet in length, to kind of give you an idea of the scale. But it once again, kind of looking back on historical creatures and trying to interact with pieces that have inspired me through the years. This is what the horse netski pot. I also worked with the idea of the Japanese netski, which took the common animal and gave it a position of reverence. People would wear them on their kimonos. And I loved that idea. So I did a series of netski pots, which I, had squirrels, rabbits, just the animals I would see outside my window. And it was a really, really nice to just place them on top of this pot and give them this moment of honor. And these are coming back to the horse. I've been drawn to the horse form my whole life, which you probably saw in the early painting too. And it's always been a bit of a puzzlement. I was never really sure why, because I wasn't an avid rider. I would more go into the stables and just ask the owner if I could just sit and draw the horse or photograph it. And I still do that. If I'm driving somewhere and I see an incredible horse, I pull over and I get the person's address and I'll send them a letter and ask if I can come and spend some time with their horse. So it's just been just this intense connection. My father called me up a number of years ago and he said, I know why you're always working with the horse. He said, I found our name in a history book. And we were actually horse domesticators. And he goes, so there's thousands of years of our genetic material working with this creature. So I felt like it gave a little more credence, I was like, oh, I see, it's a cellular memory. It's something that's really innately there. So, and
because you pick up the form so well, many people work with the horse, but you pick up that form. It's just so natural. It's beautiful. So it's in your DNA.
Well, thank you. I just always, it was just kind of, I was very curious about it and a bit like unnerved. until I found this kind of, relationship. So, and I also, with these pieces that I've been beading, and then also the piece that's behind you, Jane, they're really about the relationship of us as human beings with this animal, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to, build civilization. Was basically built on the back of a horse. So with these pieces, I really want them to look like a person made them. I want to show like the level of importance of this form to us as human beings by showing that we've spent time, creating them, tying them, creating armor for them. And this scale mail I made, I learned how to make armor and made a few pieces using this. So it's full scale, full size scale mail. And once again, I wanted to show our history as human beings through this animal by creating these pieces with armor, and show that human beings are also like so closely in touch with them. This piece is new as of this January, and it actually was in Florida. And it's a life-size horse, and I call it the sea blue steward, because I had it here on my wall, and I really felt like it was kind of looking out for, like it had this sense of like a sentinel, like a guardian. So I called it the sea blue steward. And yeah, once again, I made and patinaed all the metal also, as well as the blown glass head. And I love the contrast of the materials, like combining metal or horsehair with the glass. It just really brings out all of those incredible volatile qualities of glass. If you click on the far right photo, it'll move a bit, I believe. It should. Yeah, you can just see the detail in there.
So you made the ears point up straight, so very much alert, right? Very much paying attention.
Very much. Yeah. And that's where horses are so expressive through their ears. I mean, you really know what is going on with them just by the ear positioning. So that's something I really pay attention to when I'm making them.
Gorgeous. I do like the contrast between the materials and the patina on that, on the iron. That's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to just touch a little bit on collaboration with glass too, because a lot of people collaborate. This is a piece that was made from a taxidermy mount. So it's a full-size elk head that I made with a Native American artist, Angela Swedberg. She's a bead maestro. She has been working with seed beads and replicating historical beadwork. And so we made this is made this past year. The antlers are glass, the eyes are glass, and some of the beadwork is glass. And this is another piece called Imperial Red that we made together. So it was really wonderful to think about the form very simply. And then she did the embellishment with it. And once again, it's a mixture of different materials, which I think just enhances the glass all the more.
I agree.
Yeah, and thank you. And another collaboration, I know you know this guy.
Yes.
I have a few pictures of the work that Davide and I made together. And this collaboration started, that's in Murano. We made the first body of work in Murano. We made the second body of work in the States. So these are his cold workers, which, as you know from Davide's work, they are just incredible. They don't wear any safety gear. They put their faces right into the glass as they work with these, really loud saws and wheels, and they're very fearless. So it was just such an honor to be able to work with them, and such an incredible experience. Coming from the U.S. and going to Murano as a woman too was a very interesting experience, because I didn't know how I would be received, but Davide is so gracious, and I had my own bench, and And we all worked together. It was so challenging coming from different ways of working, different cultures, speaking two different languages, but we were able to communicate just because we knew glass. So we communicated through that language, and we're able to make some. Well, I know the museum has a few of these.
Yeah, we have a couple of labs.
So
yes, and they are beautiful.
Yeah, I was so thrilled because we never really knew what they were going to turn out like, because it was experimental the whole way through, but how
did that start? So did you and David, did you just have a conversation and say, hey, let's do something together? What made you both want to come together?
Well, and that's an interesting, I'll try and be brief about it, but it was a kind of a serendipitous way of beginning this relationship. I was in the Museum of Music in Arizona, and I came across the bull-headed violin, the Mongolian bull-headed violin. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, Davide and I should work together. I just had this, when you have that kind of weird idea, the light bulb, and then I thought, well, how will that ever work? Because I don't know him very well. I just see him at shows. But then Pilchuk asked both of us to teach. We were teaching separate classes, but they were during the same session. So I thought, wow, I have a chance to talk to him about this. So I asked his translator at the time. Davide was, his English was, he can speak English very well, but at the time he wasn't as much. So I asked his translator if Davide would like to make a piece with me. And he translated to him, and then Davide turned and he looked at me and he kind of, stroked his beard a little bit and stared, and I started getting really uneasy. And then he said, "See." So, we made a piece at Pilchuk, which turned out, it was so exciting, and it turned out very well. So we made another piece, and then within 2 weeks, he invited me to his studio in Murano, and so really that's how that all started. For the initial piece, I had made a drawing, and Davide was up in his studio making a drawing of what he wanted us to make. And we met later that night to plan it, and we showed each other our drawings, and they were virtually the same. So it was a real kind of just a really exciting moment that we were already on the same page. So we made the animal instruments, and then we made this series of helmets, which are based on the Japanese war helmets. This is the Piranha helmet. Piranha Omo is the title. These are life-size. They were very, very, because we made these in the US, we had a little bit more trouble with the color. So I think we made about 14 pieces and only 7 actually survived. So, but the ones that survived were just really, really happy with.
Wow.
This is
That's beautiful.
We can wear this. It's horsehair and actually the Japanese style chainmail hanging from it.
It's gorgeous.
And to bring back to my own most recent series, I've been working a lot with water, being in the Pacific Northwest, being completely inundated with water and rain and puddles and mud and darkness sometimes. I just was like, I'm just going to be in this and find this beauty in the environment at its kind of, most wettest times. So
I appreciate that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it, it brought me down this kind of like a rabbit hole of ice and the water and the creatures and how they're surviving and how they look, their reflections, making a 3-dimensional reflection of the animal. Just was such I felt like it used glass for its volatility, the sense of impermanence, just capturing this fleeting moment of beauty. So these are, and actually this piece is right behind me. It just came home to me, so I'm happy to sit with it for a while. The idea of a horse drinking water, and the reflection that you just see, just because you reflections are never around very long. They're just like just a moment. So I really wanted to capture that with the transparency of glass. This piece, the swan, the catalyst of my making it was the Mary Oliver poem, The Swan, but they also migrate through our area. So 2 times a year, we are surrounded by the cacophony of the swans talking, and the fields are full of them, and it's usually during the wettest months too. So they're these beautiful creatures wandering through these muddy puddles with the rain just coming down, and there they are, stark white and just brilliant. So I really wanted to work with them, and talking about the fleetingness of species. And I work a lot with just trying to instill the human relationship with the species that have been here for a long time and may not be here a lot in the future. I really want to bring attention to them. I've made some pieces and donated them to various wildlife funds in order to just kind of keep that awareness in a way to allow the beauty of the species to show through. Right. And maybe have a little bit more of a softer approach. Maybe it's still a little bit of humor with these pieces called Harbor. A little bit of hope, showing that there's a life preserver around their necks, but that means that we can still help them. Like that's I truly believe that, and I want these pieces to stay hopeful. But also to stress a sense of urgency. So this is we had some snow this winter here.
I love that shot. I love that
very
shot.
Exciting.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It looked right at home in the snow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is currently what Rick and I are working on. We're doing a very large scale public sculpture. We have made a 20-foot tall octopus out of 2-inch to 4-inch pieces of the prunings from our apple trees. And we've joined them together over top of a steel armature, just stick by stick. We've been working on this for, I guess, 2.5 years altogether, but a whole year just intensely sticking sticks, covering the piece. It will be cast in bronze, and it will be installed in the city of Bellevue, right outside of the Bellevue Art Museum.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so it's just been an amazing process, and it's a collaborative piece between Rick and I, and we. So it's just been a really exciting year working on this. And
seems like a good COVID job to stick the sticks in there.
Yeah, it really was, because I wasn't blowing glass due to COVID for, I think I was 16 months I didn't blow glass. So we were working on this, and it really was, because the wood is, it's warm, and it's very meditative to stick sticks.
Yes.
And, yeah, so.
And so you're finishing this off, and then it's going to go to get cast?
Yeah. So it will be cut apart at the end of this week. Oh, and if you click on that, it's a little video. So you can see the scale and the and all the sticks on the ground there. We'll be cutting it apart this Friday, and then getting it on a truck and sending it to Northern Oregon to be cast.
And so when do you think that installation is going to happen?
It will happen in March next year, February or March, but I'm thinking March.
So will there be any glass elements to it, or will it be all bronze?
We're experimenting with putting glass lenses on the inside of it, and then some very subtle lighting. Inside the head, there'll be spaces between the branches, between the sticks, And we'll put the lighting and the glass in there just subtle enough so it looks like when you're looking through, you know, when you look through the forest or trees when in the winter and there are no leaves and there's that beautiful kind of the light of twilight coming through them. That's what we really want the head to have, that kind of feeling. So with putting glass on the inside, it'll also be safer for a public sculpture, but it'll also help create that kind of that diffused light.
Yes, yeah. Well, I see you post that every once in a while.
Yeah,
or Rick does, or somebody does. And
Rick has been very avidly posting, just trying to show the process, and then we won't be able to show the finished piece until next year. But yeah, we're so excited to. I mean, it really was a really something we couldn't have imagined being able to create using the materials just on our property that would be cut and, you know, left to just decompose and, you know, in our fields anyway, once we prune everything. But this way we could give them another life and tell the story of the orchards in the Skagit Valley. And
I think that's, you know, it was one, as I was preparing my script, it was the one thing I wanted to ask about, because when it's being posted, it's like, what the heck is this? I can't figure out what it is that they're doing. So I can't wait till that gets installed next March. I think that's just going to be fantastic. So what else is up for you coming up in this next year? You have this piece. Are there other shows or exhibitions or projects that you're working on that you can talk about that you're looking forward to?
Well, we do have a second public sculpture that will be going into the same location. So we'll be starting on that. And it will be, again, one of the creatures from the Pacific Northwest. We're looking at the heron form, the Great Pacific Heron. And it will also be a large scale, but this one we're trying to imagine it more as like the body as a ship. So like a vessel, like not necessarily an ocean ship, it could be an airship. Yeah, so it's still in the idea phase, but so that will be what we'll be working on partly, and I'll still be back in the hot shop too. I'm hoping to continue making more of the pieces that I have to create using more beadwork, more hand tying, so that I can have more of that intimacy with the glasswork after it's blown.
Will you be going out for any residencies or anything up for 23, 24?
Do I have a residency coming up?
Yeah, or exhibitions around the country. That's a question from Howard.
Oh, Howard. Hi, Howard. Right now, I'll be working with Habitat and with Blue Rain Gallery doing some exhibitions next year. There's nothing like I don't have a specific date right now, but I will definitely share that.
Great. So what are some of because I saw you in you had a panel discussion in January when you were down here, and it was all with women, and you were talking about that. And so I'm just curious, as we are moving along in this with contemporary glass art and moving forward in the 21st century. So who are some of the younger female artists who work with glass that you think are coming up strong? I didn't prep you for this. I just you had an opinion.
Well, I just taught at Corning, New York, and there were a number of women in that class that were up and coming, and I had the most amazing students. That I had a pretty balanced mix of people in there, an age range, and they had all come from a very like formal glass blowing background. And it was their kind of their first sculptural experience, and the talent that I saw, and just kind of this explosion of ideas It was like one of the most intense I had ever experienced with teaching a class. And it just gave me such like excitement and, just looking forward to the future and what's going to happen in the glass world, because, we build upon each other's
That's
knowledge.
right.
So this next generation coming up is just going to be incredible. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of some last names, and right now I can't.
And you know what, I think what you're saying, because I also know, just in my little research, that how many women are in the glass programs across the country now. And actually more a majority of women than men. And so I don't know why that is. But I'm happy to get your report from Pilgrim that at just the creativity and perhaps experimentation, and then the whole idea of that sculpted form is something I think we really have to continue pushing forward, right? I think that audiences lose sight of that, the three-dimensional aspect of art when they're on their screen so much. So it's wonderful that one can come into a museum like Imagine and see the variety of form that exists throughout this museum and all the creative ideas of the artists. I'm going to turn it over to the audience, but I see Trish right there. So Trish, do you have any questions for Shelley?
Shelley, it's so impressive to see all your work. Honestly, I'm amazed. You've done an amazing job of going down the rabbit hole. I mean,
yeah, truly the rabbit.
You express the fleetingness of life, the beauty of animals, and I really admire your expression of hope, especially today in this wild, wild world. For you to, continue to create, even when we had a shutdown and COVID, and you kept creating even with sticks. It's absolutely fabulous, and really a testament to your own personal creativity. So I really admire and appreciate you so much. Thanks for all that you do to uplift people in the world.
Well, thank you, Trish. I feel the same way about you, and thank you for providing these beautiful venues and collections so that people to be able to show the masses of people. You're reaching such a big audience with what you do, and I'm just so grateful to be part of that. Thank you.
Well, thank you too, because people come to the museum and they love your work. It's just so out.
They do. Yeah, they do.
It's fabulous to be able to include your work.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that means a lot.
Are there other questions from our audience for Shelley today?
Yes, we have a question from Linda Green. She's asking, did you feel that the community of artists were all learning and exploring together?
Do I feel like the community of
community of artists actually learning and exploring and collaborating together? But I guess you answered some of it in the presentation.
Yeah, I really feel that with people that work with the medium of glass, they just exchange everyone's so generous with their exchange of knowledge. It's like like how I was talking about how we build upon each other over the years. I know that personally, I'm so happy to show somebody like what I know, like, physically, technically, in order to be able to pass this information on. And I feel that that's very prevalent in the glass world. There is very little holding back to kind of keep yourself unique, or, coming from a painting background, nobody wanted to share ideas because everyone was very competitive, and it was such a solo experience that the glass world just is completely opposite of that. People just want to work with each other, to help each other, and collaborate. People collaborate very freely with each other, which is just a really, I don't know, it just feels like a much healthier and more natural way to live and express yourself. It's
I think my sense of history is that I think that's how this material will grow as an artistic medium moving forward, because of the artists and their ability to collaborate and to share. we wouldn't even have this conversation today if it wasn't for those early artists, and you might be second generation, but for everyone who came together, the intent was to share from the very beginning. So, and look at where we're at, 50, 60 years plus. So I think it is an attribute of really the artists who work with this material, that somehow it brings them together in a sense of community. So keep doing it. Let's keep moving this forward, to get more people aware of what all of you wonderful artists are doing. Any other questions do we have out there? Hi, Howard.
Hi. First of all, this lecture has been just absolutely fabulous. I'm so grateful, Shelley and Trish and Jane, that you brought it to your members. I'm wondering, Shelley, how big of a role did that kind of collaborative spirit play in the beginning of your career, and the attractiveness of working in glass with this kind of connection between people?
It was a really big part of it. My first experience with working with hot glass was with Karen Willenbrink, and I had made these drawings, and I of course had no experience with working with glass, so I showed them to her and she goes, "Oh, let's go down to the hot shop and let's make those." So that was my first time gathering, and we were making, she was making these drawings that I had, and I was helping her, and I got really burned because I didn't know how to gather, but it was so exhilarating and just so exciting to just have an idea, and then suddenly you're using this incredibly, just luscious material to make them in 3 dimensions. And then just working with these people that were just so eager and happy and skilled to facilitate that. And then, I was so lucky to work with the Morris team because we were like a group of people from all over the place that came together every day and put 110% into each piece that was being made. And things didn't always turn out, but I say a piece would end up on the floor because Bill was always pushing it. I mean, he was experimenting every day, but it would just be part of the spirit of the piece. You'd know, like, okay, well, that means that we really tried to do something different today. So tomorrow it will work. So everybody kept that levity throughout the day, even if it didn't turn out. But yeah, that was it's a very encouraging environment. And then also it's the growth is exponential because it's so many minds involved.
It sounds absolutely wonderful.
It absolutely is, Howard. Yeah. And I do want to mention one thing, that as an artist and working in a team, to have the glass enthusiasts like yourself, Howard, like people who have been dedicated to being part of this movement, and coming to the shows and learning. And I know you're an educator and you've been teaching your students about glass, and I think that makes it go full circle. We're sharing, and it's being shared more and experienced by more people through all of you who have just been so dedicated being part of the movement like that, in that capacity. So thank you to all of you for that.
Thank you.
I would agree. It's a wonderful, supportive community all the way around. I think any of us who engage in it believe that. And as we have come to know one another, just appreciate all of the pieces that must come together to see this material, and the artists that work with this material receive the recognition and move it forward. So that's what we're about here at Imagine Museum, right, Trish? And so if there aren't any other...
There is one question from Randall Reese. Do you have any advice for emerging glass artists?
Yeah, persevere. if you want to make something and it hasn't turned out, just make it another 200 times and just keep, and somewhere, things, you just have to keep the momentum going. And I do really believe in the energy that you put out, in your studio goes out into the world. And if you just keep building that, and you learn from it, and you attract people and like-minded people, artists into your life. And, it really is, it's like a snowball effect. And if you love it, don't stop doing it. Just you can have days that you get frustrated, but just go beyond that, because it really is, it's worth it to preserve and persevere this material, because there's nothing like it. And it might not be as easy to come across a studio to use it, but there are a lot out there. So there are means of making your work eventually. I'm not sure if you're making it right now, but if you have to work with people and just be around the material, do that. Do whatever it takes.
I think those are great words of encouragement, Shelley. I believe that that's very true, not only for the glass, but anyone who's interested in pursuing a life in the arts. So perseverance is really what keeps it happening. But it's your creative thinking that also helps you persevere, because how do you get these ideas manifested? And so that helps drive that perseverance. And Natalia, are there any other questions that you can see?
No more questions, just compliments.
Jane,
Okay.
can I add one last one last comment?
Absolutely.
I'd like to really share my gratitude for all the staff at the museum, and also for anybody who's newly getting into this medium. I was so fortunate to work with someone I collected, Marlena Rose. She introduced me to working with glass and allowed me to work with her. And then Chuck Books at his studio, where Duncan McClellan and Marlena both worked, allowed me to work in his studio. So without the help of those two, I would have never been even involved. I would have never had a museum. And then I have a spectacular team with Sky McDonough, Doug Gianluca, Larry Bissalon, and especially Casey Brewster and her mom, Sam Brewster. Without these people, I would be having a difficult time, but it's just such a lovely team, and it's such a great feeling of teamwork to work with people that it's just a very unusual and special experience, this medium of glass art. Yeah. So thank you, Shelley, for doing a great job of informing all of us and inspiring us. And thanks, Jane.
Yeah, sure. Great. So Shelley's, give our love to Rick also. If anybody wants to see him, you could go to our YouTube channel and see our Zoom with him, which is also very informative. And if we are done, I think we can sign out, and we'll go with the last promotion for the museum.
Well, thank you very much. It's been such a pleasure to be with you all this morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to visit you one day, Shelley. I'm going to see you up in Cedro Willie.
Yes, come out to Cedro Willie.
I will. All right, run the